Hello and welcome to C++ Weekly. I'm your host, Jason Turner. In this episode, I am going to cover the results of my first ever C++ Best Practices Game Jam that was held this month. I announced the theme and programming began on April 1st of 2022, and participants had about 10 days to do whatever work they wanted to do on this game jam, and the theme was round. Quote, just the word round. And you could have interpreted this theme in any way that you wanted to. Now, the main spirit of this game jam was best practices. And so that will be a fair bit of the judging criteria. So stay tuned for the awesome submissions that we got, some honorable mentions, and I'll be working my way up to the game that got the best game, best overall submission award. Be sure to check out the video description for links to my ebooks, printed books, Patreon, and GitHub sponsor page, as well as news about upcoming events that you might be interested in. An important thing to keep in mind as we look at the submissions and the results of this game jam is, besides the theme of best practices, is that all of the games had to use FTX UI, which is a console-based framework for console user interfaces. And so you'll see as we go through each of these submissions that every one of them is actually a game or a toy of some sort running in the console. So before we really dig into the game submissions, the honorable mentions, and the winners, want to talk a little bit about the specific rules. And the spirit of this competition was really about experiencing best practices kind of in a constrained environment. The participants were given a template project that still exists. You can check that out as well. It's linked to from the Game Jam site, and it's part of my C++ best practices organization on GitHub. And this template had very strict warnings as errors enabled, address sanitizer, undefined behavior sanitizer, and supported several different compilers across all three major platforms. So really, there's a lot going on here. And it's good to talk about what went right and what went wrong with the game jam. There was some difficulty in getting participants set up and going, but once they were set up, things really seemed to move smoothly after that. In fact, many participants commented that they are excited to do another game jam because now they have all the tools ready to go and they won't have to spend any time learning those things. Now they can actually just spend time creating a game. We did encounter a few problems with address sanitizer with Visual Studio and with the quote open directory feature of Visual Studio, where it can load a directory for any project that has CMake in it. Sometimes the address sanitizer DLL would be found, and sometimes it wouldn't be found, and it seemed to be somewhat random as to whether or not things are going to work for their participants in that particular scenario. We did have some difficulty with Conan. Sometimes packages would be missing or catch2 wouldn't compile. I wasn't able to investigate exactly what was going on there. And we also had problems using Conan, which was the default for dependencies here, when we were using Inscriptum for people who wanted to build web versions of their game. And then the CodeQL test ended up being a little bit of a problem in some cases for people because if things weren't organized exactly right in their GitHub action for code analysis, then you would end up with very long timeouts. For any of these things, part of the rules said if you had to disable a warning or a feature, then you have to document why. And for people who did that, that still makes a perfectly valid submission. We ended up with some things like this that really made me laugh. Like we have documented here that CPP check warnings had to be disabled, like unused private function, which is unfortunate, but also this cling tidy, no lint magic numbers, no lint magic numbers everywhere. And they're referring to a / no lint comment where they used a magic number in their code base. It's actually kind of interesting to see in like this case, okay, they had to comment that they didn't want the linter to warn them about this 0.5 floating point number. But this is clearly a vestigial comment because there's no magic number being used here. They clearly moved theta out to a static context per float here up on line 50, but the comment was still left behind. But this kind of thing, a lot of people got annoyed with, and I fully understand. Like if you're reading this code, you would probably understand that this is a fully green pixel here, fully green color. That's RGBA, almost certainly. That's the kind of thing that people who are used to working with colors would see. But then you have to put in this, no lint magic number here. So, a little bit obnoxious, but yeah, I think it was a good experience for everyone. One particular participant even commented that they learned more in 2 weeks participating in this game jam than they had learned in the last 6 months. So I hope you enjoy looking at the submissions that we had here. I would like to highlight Disarm Self-Destruct. And this one is based off of a mini game from Mass Effect. And it is effectively, you're just trying to, well, disarm a bomb, basically. Now, I wanted to highlight this one because it left me wanting for more when I played it. Now, what you're trying to do is solve this disarming mechanism by using the arrow keys up, down, left, right. So if I hit up, I see that it didn't do anything. Left, no, down, no, right. So that moved me to the next string. And I try up, no, right, no. So it's right, left, and then I just ran out of time. So you have to memorize the pattern and guess what the pattern is. And the pattern stays stable for the length of the game, but it's very short. It's 30 seconds. I kind of wish that there was like a 3-ring version to start with so that you could kind of get warmed up and get used to using the keys, maybe different amounts of time limits, perhaps ways of extending the time, something like that. But fun game. Another reason I wanted to highlight Disarm Self-Destruct is that the authors did go through and add some game-solving logic test to prove that their logic system for testing that the puzzle had been solved was what they expected it to be. So that's cool. I'm really happy to see that. All right, so the next one that I want to highlight is this one called Smooth Life. And the concept is that you're going around polishing objects to make them nice, round, shiny things. So it's an interesting interpretation of the theme because you're trying to make round numbers. And well, I actually had a lot of fun playing this. Okay, so it starts out with this idea. Buzzing thoughts. I'm feeling so burned out. Ironic. My dream is to become a master polisher, making things smooth, shiny, and round. Why does my life have to be so rough then? I'm afraid of failing the final exams tomorrow. You fall asleep at your working desk. In a dream state, going around trying to make round numbers and get to the exit. Now, my console, for whatever reason, does not have this font, whatever it is. This is your character. But in the upper right, you can see that your surface is currently 51. Your energy is 97. It is going down even when you're not moving. It goes down 1 point per second. It also goes down each time you move a space. And so I need to get 50 into a round number. If I subtract 9 from it, then I'm going to get 42. If I multiply that by 2, I would get 84. If I multiply 51 by 2, I get 102. The plus is, here, let's do that. There we go. So I have 100, which is a so smooth and shiny number. And then I step out the exit and I'm on the next level. So it's all just math and it's fun. And I can see that I can get to 20 here. That's a round enough number. Now my surface is 23,973. And don't pay any attention to these graphics artifacts over here. This is just for me resizing the font size earlier. So that gets quite a bit harder to think about, what should be the next number that I would do. If I could add 27 to this, that would make for a very nice round number, but I can't add 27. I can add 6, I can subtract 9. So I'm going to start by dividing by 6 and see what happens. Now if I can add 5, there we go, 4,000, nice round number. Oh, not good. I have no way to get a round number here, and then I will, well, I lost a life. You can see one of my hearts disappeared over here. One thing I particularly like is this little log of what you last did, and it tells you your top message on top and scrolls down from there. Oh, and I ran out of energy there. My score was 4,444. I had a lot of fun playing this one. I find it replayable. I really like it. Now, the next one that I want to highlight is Minesweeper Marathon. And again, I found this one replayable. Its interpretation of theme is that it is a game that is played in rounds with increasing difficulty and with a timer. Now, I am not the world's best Minesweeper player by any means at all, but this is a fun game to play, and I had a lot of fun playing it. Now, I also want to bring attention to the fact that the author did go out of their way to add tests, and we've got 82% code coverage here. So there's board test and game tests that have been added. Clean, well-organized test suite. So this definitely deserves recognition here. So I'm on round 1. The timer hasn't started yet. For each right thing I do, I'm going to get more time added back in. And I am quite simply trying to clear the board as quickly as I can. Next round comes up. So I just got something wrong. I can't keep playing, but I can reset the level. And my timer keeps going and I stay on this round. So I have the opportunity to do it again. And I just made the exact same mistake twice. I made it to round 13. Okay, so on to the actual award winners. This is mostly based on the community voting that was done, that most of the participants actually participated in the voting as well. And this is the Dante-O, Dante-IO, if I'm pronouncing that right, game that is here to help developers connect around buggy code through increasing our collective WTFs per minute KPIs. Don't wait, come join us in the brand new 10th Circle of Hell. It's well, it's an interesting game. It's something of a choose your own adventure, text adventure kind of game where you get to say, what am I doing here? Who are you? Where am I? This kind of thing. And you interact with other characters in this game. The whole point of this is interacting in a world where you have to produce the worst possible code. Now, it's not entirely clear to me if there are multiple pathways through it, but you should try it out yourself for sure. Now we'll take a quick peek into the source code because this did win the Best Code Award from the community votes. Now, it is a very simple, straightforward game, but it has a very well organized source code layout. There's plenty of use of things like const expr where it makes sense. They built a state machine that manages the current state of the game. They have all kinds of tests in here for testing the user interface and the engine and the gameplay, and it's all very well organized and absolutely in the spirit of this best practices competition, and I am not at all surprised that it won the Best Code Award. Now, the next game that I would like to cover is this game called Sumo by a 3-person team. And this one won both the best interpretation of the theme and the most creative game. And it is also a fun, replayable game. And I could very much see the authors of this project actually continue to develop it. So you are a sumo wrestler and you get to move around. This is just a crazy amount of graphic detail for a console game. And you have to play this mini game to actually do the attack against your opponent. And they went through a lot of effort here to make this into a fully playable game. You have multiple rounds and I keep losing. I would again love to see this game continue to be developed, have multiple levels perhaps, different layers of difficulty. I could see it going places, but it is definitely a creative use of the theme and just a creative game in general with surprisingly well done graphics, considering again, this is a console-based game. Now, as far as I can tell, Sumo did not add any new test. So in that regard, not as well keeping with the spirit of the best practices competition, but all of the targets still built with no problem. And it's a fun game to play with a good interpretation of the round theme. And this brings us to the best overall game and the most fun game. And I personally spent the most time playing this one as well. This is Termbreaker, and it is by Arthur Sanzagni, who is the author of the FTX UI library that we're using. Now, I don't think that gave Arthur any special advantage here or anything like that, because these are all techniques that anyone else could have done. In some ways, less complicated use of FTX UI than some of the other games. But Arthur took advantage of this opportunity to see how a game could look in FTX UI and did add test and made a web version of it available and entered audio in here. Now, it is worth noting that the author did have to remove the developer mode build of Visual Studio. I haven't looked into why that particular one was failing, but they documented why it was removed, which was an important part of the submission process here for this game jam. If a warning or something had to be disabled, then you had to document why. So you just have to drop balls until you clear the screen, and it kind of has a Tetris feel. Kind of a Pong feel, kind of a breakout feel. And as the balls bounce around, they take points off from each of the bricks that they hit. And you can see I'm dropping 5 balls at a time right here. And the play field goes up periodically. And if it reaches the top, then I would lose the level. Now, one of the things that really made this game stand out to me is I just won some coins. So if I go to the shop, I started with 5 balls. I have 2,000 coins, and the cost of buying 5 more balls is 2,000 coins. So I can hit buy balls, and now I have 10 balls. And I can replay the same level again if I would like to, but now with 10 balls. And this is the kind of thing that I personally really like in a game, the ability to kind of upgrade your abilities. To me, that's fun. And it's really not at all surprising to me that this game won both Most Fun and Best Overall Game from the votes. So this game was immensely satisfying to play, but it was also incredibly helpful to have Arthur's help during the game jam. He answered many questions for the game jam participants about using FTX UI and added links to all of the submitted games to the FTX UI official page, including web versions that you can play of Termbreaker and Minesweeper Marathon. So that wraps up my coverage of the first ever game jam. I'm really pleased with the comments that I got from people about things that they had learned while working on this project, and I hope you had fun looking at the games that we covered here and seeing, really what's possible with FTX UI, what's possible with games on the console, and that it is in fact possible to write games with a high level of static and dynamic analysis across multiple platforms. Now, one comment that I did not cover in the intro is that we did have a hard time getting any audio libraries that could work with address sanitizer that didn't require pulling in like all of SDL or something crazy like that. Either we had difficulty on playing the audio or difficulty in parsing the audio, because it seems that some very common audio libraries simply aren't tested with address sanitizer, which I find fascinating and disappointing. So if we do this again, I'm going to try to make an updated template project that does have an audio library available to you, that doesn't throw address sanitizer errors, if I can, and integrates more easily a couple of things like a JSON library for people who used that as well. So again, thanks for watching this episode of C++ Weekly. I hope you enjoyed this look into the Game Jam results.